you have a compost pile and you see plants growing in your compost pile and you notice that they are growing so well, have you ever asked yourself the question, why are the plants in my compost pile doing so much better than the plants that I have planted in my garden or raised beds or whatever it is, even though I'm providing them with the same type of compost? Hello everyone, this is Chantal, and today I'm going to be planting a raspberry bush. This is a black raspberry bush it's a wild bush that grows in our area, and I just dug it up, put it in a pot, and now today I'm going to be planting it in this bed right there. And I don't know if you guys can see it, it's sunny. You probably can't see it. You'll see where. Anyways, so I'm going to be planting it in here today. It's mid-November and today it's like 75 degrees or 76 degrees. I guess I was totally wrong about the weather. I expected that we will have snow in about 2 weeks from my last video or so. I think that I should not be a meteorologist, right? That's what they're called, I think. In other words, I should not be telling weather. Because I was absolutely wrong. But hey, I could still be right. I mean, today could be just a fluke day. The past couple days have been really warm, so which is nice. And I think I'm wearing completely the wrong attire for this weather, but it's okay. Along with this raspberry, if I have the time and if it doesn't rain, looks like the sky is clearing. When I was coming out, it was cloudy, so we'll see. We still have clouds in the distance. So if I have some more time, I do want to finish the raised beds over here. I have a couple raised beds that I need to set up. If I don't fill them up today, at least I want to set up the structure for them, and we'll see what else I can do. I think that is just going to be enough. It's going to exhaust me. Sorry if my voice sounds a little raspy. I have a cold, so I apologize for that. Let's go ahead and get this raspberry planted. So here it is in all its glory. And it's just it's 2 canes right now, and it's going to produce more canes next season. We might get some berries on it, we might not. These produce I think in the late spring they produce their berries, and we love this variety. That's why I'm planting it. I could purchase a different variety and plant that, but this is my favorite variety unless I get to try a different variety that I like, and then I'll plant that. And we are still expanding our garden, so I might do more rows of raspberries. I'm thinking that these 2 rows, I want them to be raspberries, and this one over here, this bed over here, and the bed across from it, and the 2 beds behind at the back are going to be grapevines. I would like to expand in the future and plant more grapevines so that we have different varieties and we could do, use them for different purposes. That's the goal. And I would like to have a lot of raspberries so that we can freeze them and so that we can do jams and jellies, and we do a lot of smoothies also, so that would be nice if we have frozen berries. I also use them in baking and stuff like that. So if I don't get enough from these 2 rows, then I might plant more rows. And if I find a variety that produces more and I do like its flavor more than this variety, then I will purchase that variety and plant it. And raspberries are kind of a thug in the garden, so you have to keep an eye on them because they will plant themselves everywhere, especially if the birds get to them, because they will drop their seeds everywhere. And also because whenever the canes touch the ground, they end up producing roots there and then propagating themselves in that way. So that's one thing you want to watch out for, and they produce a lot of suckers. But I don't mind that personally. My husband was very insistent on not planting raspberries, but then I think he changed his mind on that, and I think I'm very happy about that. So let's go ahead and get this before we get this in the ground, I want to show you what I'm also going to be putting in the ground along with this. Now, you might think this is very late. We do live in zone 5, so you might think this is very late for planting. I think that the weather is still okay to plant, and I think even if it's going to snow, and we're going to have snow on the ground soon, which again, I'm probably wrong, but even so, the ground is going to be warm, so it's going to take it a while to freeze, and these should have some time to set their roots in the ground. Also, these already have roots in this pot, so when you put them in the ground, they're insulated because they're not exposed to the elements. When it's in the pot like this, you have all this pot over here exposed to the elements, and this whole thing is going to freeze. That's worse than putting it in the ground. If you put it in the ground, at least you are giving it a chance to live, even if it's about to snow. You're better off putting your plant in the ground than leaving it in a pot. If it's a plant that is not super hardy, if it's only hardy to your zone or just a zone above, you might as well just get it in the ground. So let me show you what I have to put in the ground to fertilize this raspberry bush with. So I'm not sponsored by any brand, just to let you know, but these are the things that I use over here. So I have over here this organic berry tone, and it's just a fertilizer, an organic fertilizer specifically designed for berries like blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, strawberries, all the kind of berries. So I'm going to be using that. I'm in the soil with because it's going to provide it with the proper nutrients. I don't have to worry so much about giving it the nutrients that it needs, other than this thing. I'm also going to be adding some soil acidifier. This is by Job's. I'm trying this brand this year, and I found that I really like them. They also have specific elements like sulfur, well, this is sulfur. They also have phosphate, and they have like basic elements that you can purchase each element on its own. So I have in my description box a link to a lot of the fertilizers that I use. You can check them out if you're interested. And the reason why I'm adding this is because our soil is neutral. It's close to neutral, 6.8 the acidity of our soil, and neutral is 7. Below that is acidic, and above that is alkaline or basic. So our soil is very close to 7, so that makes it more on the neutral side, and that's why I'm adding soil acidifiers. Naturally, berry plants like it to be more acidic, especially blueberries. I like it to be on the 5 level of pH, and I'm going to add a little bit of this. Now, the berry tone has some soil acidifier in it, but I want to add a little bit more because I found that the berry tone alone is not enough for our plants and the type of soil that we have. You want to watch out for the type of soil that you have. Test it to see what kind of pH you have, so that you can better understand how to provide your plants with the proper nutrients that they need. If you have a high pH soil, which is above 7 and above, you want, if you're planting berries, you want to add a soil acidifier, which is sulfur, and to acidify your soil. And if you have a low pH soil, which is below 7, if it's super acidic, then you might want to add a little bit of lime, and lime makes the soil a little bit more alkaline, or raises the acidity of the soil, the pH of the soil, I should say, not the acidity, raises the pH of the soil, and it allows it to be closer to the neutral side. If it's like below 5, you know, if it's 5, or a little bit above 5, then you're fine. You don't have to add any lime unless you're planting something that needs an alkaline soil or neutral soil. So enough talking, let's get this planted. I'm going to put this raspberry on the edge over there in the middle of the bed. This way I can put posts on the outside of on the outer edges of the bed, and put some sort of a support for the raspberries to keep them upright so that they don't end up planting themselves into the walkways, which right now we don't have any mulch in there, but in case if I want to put mulch in there, I don't want them planting themselves in there. So the supports would help with that, which are probably going to be some T-posts and some twine or something like that. Also, if these do end up planting themselves in the bed, hey, that's great. This is what I want them to do. Look at these roots. After I planted it, I realized that I put the longest cane facing the walkway. Oops, it's okay. I'm probably going to be cutting this cane anyways in a couple, no, not next year, but the year after. And it's going to be producing a lot more canes. I'm not sure if these produce on the first year cane or the second year cane. I totally forgot. I'm hoping that they will produce on the first year cane. We'll see. If they do produce on the first year cane, it's probably going to be a fall crop, not a spring crop. We'll see. We'll figure that out together, I guess. So this bed right here and that bed over there and the two beds that I'm going to be putting right here are obviously all made with logs. So the hope and the plan is that next year my husband will build beds like these raised beds over here that he built, like these over here. So this way they would be kind of, they would have a lot more dirt in them and they would be more cohesive with the rest of the garden. I don't mind this look, but that's not the look that I'm going for in this garden. Also, these are temporary. They're not going to last forever because this is just natural wood, so it's going to rot, and also it is going to, it might like move away from the place where I put it or whatever. So it's not a long-term solution for what we need. So eventually we're going to have to put raised beds. They might last a couple years or so, or maybe longer, I don't know, but the hope is to put up new raised beds next year. So these beds, that means that these beds are going to be filled up with more soil than what they have already. So that means that this raspberry over here is probably going to be covered with some more soil, maybe like up to here. And I think that should be okay because raspberries, again, when they touch the ground, they plant themselves. So I think that is not going to cause any rot over here. I don't believe so. And if it does, I'm sure I can find more raspberries of this type in our yard. They're everywhere practically. So I don't have to worry about it too much. And also I would like to try another variety, like I said earlier. But the trick is finding the proper variety that we would like, because I don't know about you, but the raspberries that we get from the store are flavorless. Really, they don't taste like anything. I don't like them at all. If anything, they have a weird taste to them and it's not appetizing at all. And maybe I'm just getting, maybe if I got organic raspberries from a local grown, from like local and organically, excuse me, local and organically grown raspberries, then I would probably change my opinion on that. I don't know, we'll see. I mean, I like the frozen raspberries, those taste great, but I've never tried locally grown organic raspberries, so maybe I should try that and see. I talked about these 2 beds over here, so now I'm going to grab the trailer and start finding some logs to put around these beds over here before I put the paper mulch or cardboard, whichever I'm going to be using. And I also have to remove that compost over there. I never really tilled it, I just threw the compost in there, and I kind of slowly am taking it apart. I never tilled it because I never really had the time to till it. If you watch my videos often, then you'll know why I don't have the time to till it. But yeah, so I gotta get rid of that first probably before I get the stuff, and I have to move the compost somewhere. And my plan is to put it in the beds because I want it to feed the beds, but I don't want to end up digging in the beds right now. So I'll probably just put it on top of this bed over here, and I'll cover it with some more soil because this one is going to need some more soil. It's not high enough. I'm going to mound the soil a little bit so that when we do build new raised beds, it will have enough soil in it. And also when the snow comes, and it tends to compact the soil, so you'll see your soil level go down, especially if you have a lot of snow. And if you have the freezing and thawing cycle, this just naturally ends up compacting the soil and it ends up pushing the soil level down. So I'll put the compost in here. I think that bed is gonna really love it, and I should plant something in it next year. And yeah, I'll do that first, and then I'll start working on these beds over here. Not sure what to do with the metal and the wood posts. Hopefully I can get them out of the ground because the ground is super wet and the wood is rotting in there. I actually broke one of the wood posts, so we'll see what happens with these that are remaining over there. Let's go ahead. Grass was growing right through it, so it was really hard to pull it up. But I got it. If you have a compost pile and you see plants growing in your compost pile and you notice that they are growing so well, have you ever asked yourself the question, why are the plants in my compost pile doing so much better than the plants that I have planted in my garden or raised beds or whatever it is, even though I'm providing them with the same type of compost? So I think I have the answer. I have observed over several years now the difference between putting pre-composted compost into your raised beds or your garden versus putting your organic matter directly into your raised bed to compost it in your raised bed. Now, this might sound very unappealing to some people, but please listen to me. Over the period of several years, I have planted things in raised beds with compost that have been pre-composted, and I actually had 1 or 2 beds, I don't remember, I think it was 1 bed, and I noticed that these plants were not doing well at all. They didn't thrive, they weren't growing super well, so they were not thriving at all. The compost was not hot, it was good and decomposed. It still had some organic matter in there, but it still was not enough to provide that bed with the nutrients that it needed. But on the other hand, I tried direct composting into my raised beds, into most of my raised beds, and I saw amazing results from them. This year, unfortunately, I did not do that just because, life just did not allow me to, and the year before. So in the years where I was able to compost directly in my raised beds, what happened is I saw, imagine a turnip, for example. This is a turnip. This is the kind of fruits that I got from there. The tomatoes would just grow super big, produce tons of fruits. They were super healthy. Everything was just super healthy in these raised beds where I did direct composting. And what I did is basically just take all my vegetable scraps and eggshells and all that stuff from the kitchen, put it into my raised beds. At the time we had chickens, I would put chicken manure in there. Now we have chickens again, so I can do that again. And in the winter, I can't till it in, so I just leave it on top of the bed. And then in the spring, I come and I till it into the bed. And all that organic matter, a lot of it that was seeping into the beds during the winter season, and then after the winter, when I tilled it in the spring, all this organic matter is now fermenting in the beds. So you have the fermentation action, which you have a lot of beneficial bacteria from that would come and benefit your soil. It provides a super healthy environment for your plants. And then you have the worms that are eating on the material, and they are providing the worm castings, which are full of nitrogen and other beneficial nutrients for your plants. So this, I notice, is the best way to compost. And also in the summer, if I had vegetable scraps or whatever it is that I have, I just throw it on top of the bed. I would leave it on top. I'd leave those scraps in the summer on top of the bed until I was able to till it back in. If there were plants in the way, I couldn't till it in because I didn't want to damage the roots. And whenever I was able to till it in, then I would till it in. Now, in the time when it's sitting on top of the soil, yes, some of the nutrients are getting into the air and evaporating, that's true, but not all of them. There are tons of nutrients still available that are leaching into the soil. If you are able to till it directly into the soil away from the roots of the plant, that's even better. Put it in the soil, away from the roots, so that the plant itself does not rot, and then you have all this beneficial bacteria and all these worms that are coming and eating at these organic matter and providing tons of nutrients for your plants. So this is the idea behind this bed, and this is what I'm going to be implementing from now on with all my beds, because I've done the comparison and I've noticed the difference. And this year, because I was not able to do that, I noticed a big difference. My plants weren't doing well at all. We introduced new soil to our garden, so I wasn't able to implement that technique in it, and only depending on fertilizer was not enough. And at the time when I did the composting, many times I didn't even put fertilizer in, and sometimes I did, but only barely, just a sprinkle around the roots of the plant, and that was enough to produce these gigantic fruits and produce for our family. And it's amazing, and I think from now on, this is what I'm going to do. If you think that's the way for you to go, you go ahead and do it, and I encourage you to do it. I think that's the best way, especially in today's world where the fertilizers are not super available, and if they are available, it's extremely high prices, and you can produce tons of organic matter even if you have a small lot. When you mow your grass, just take the grass clippings, and you can, if you want, put them on your bed, or put them in a compost pile, which is not my favorite way. But anyways, you could do that. You could get the leaves, you could get kitchen scraps, you could get all that, put it in your bed. Now, with the grass clippings and the leaves, one thing to keep in mind is that they do mat. They form like a sort of a mat. So if you till them into the ground, you'll be avoiding that. Just dig a ditch in the ground, put them in, and you'll be avoiding that if you can, maybe if you have space between your plants or something like that. Now, in the fall, what I would like to do, I don't know if I'll have the time to do that this year because it just keeps raining whenever I have the time to do it, what I normally would do is I would take all the grass clippings and all the leaves and I would mound them on top of the bed, and that's how I winter my beds over. And then I would put the compost on top and like all the kitchen scraps on top, and if I have chicken manure, that also goes on top. So all these organic matters are working together to provide the best nutrients for your plants for the next season, because they're going to be decomposing. You don't want to, you know, like if the only time that you have to do that is during planting season, that's totally fine, but realize that this takes time to improve your soil, because you want to build up this natural bacteria in your soil and this organic fertilizer in your soil, and it takes several years to do that. For me, it took me about 4 years to accomplish the goal that I wanted to accomplish, and then I introduced new soil and all that, and that kind of ruined the system that I was having, and I also wasn't able to do it the previous year, and this year I wasn't able to implement that technique in there. Anyways, so I just kind of wanted to share that with you guys. Now, with this bed over here, let me show it to you quickly. So you see all this organic matter. Some of it is decomposed, and some is still decomposing, like all this big material. I'm going to be covering all that with some extra soil, and I should probably do it before I start building this bed, because then I won't be able to bring the trailer into here. I do have to mow this grass around here also. Anyways, it's a side note. So all this organic material is going to be fermenting underground, and when you cover it, you are providing a safe environment for the worms and for the bacteria to for the worms to feed on this organic matter, because it's, especially in the winter, the worms are not going to go up on the surface of the soil, and for the beneficial bacteria to multiply in your soil. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be covering it all with the soil that we got, and just building up this bed. Now I'm going to be mounding this bed. Obviously it doesn't have a lot of space for me to put the soil in the way how I would like to put it, like these raised beds over there, but I'll do my best and I'll try to mound it to create that environment for the bacteria and the worms. Just a quick note, look at the grass that was growing directly next to the compost pile. You see how big it is? This is what I'm talking about, okay? Look at the green that it has, the vibrancy that it has. Look at the leaves, it's super healthy. And I've had a lot of plants that I had to cut down that were growing around the compost pile, all because of what I'm talking about over here, of this beneficial bacteria and the worm castings and all that. This is what you are going to start seeing in your garden when you start implementing this method. Alright, so now I'm gonna fill the trailer with some dirt, not too much, and get it over here, fill this bed. I'll probably won't film that part, because I need to be quick on that, and I'll film the part where I'm fixing these beds. You already saw me do that anyways in a separate video, so do I need to do that? Probably not. I think you guys don't need to see me do that, because you already saw me do it in a separate video. So this is what I was talking about. I mounded soil over the compost that you saw me put in there, and now the bed is pretty high, but that's only because the compost was high, because there's a lot of it that's not decomposed, so it will go down. The bed that is over here was about also the same height as this one, and this one didn't even have compost in it, and it went down. You can see how much lower it is now. So now all I have to do is just wait for it to decompose. What I might do before snowfall is cover it maybe with some landscaping fabric or something like that to protect the soil, because I'm not going to be able to put any leaves over it or grass. So that's one way I also protect the soil, and I talked about that in one of my earlier videos that I started when I started the channel. I talked about doing that also. So I also talked about this technique in a separate video. I made a full video on that, so I will link that video for you guys over here to watch about the soil, the importance of the health of the soil. And also I'll link the video where I built the raised beds with the logs over here for you guys to watch, so you can check these videos out. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Oh, before I leave, if you are new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell to receive notifications of whenever I upload new videos. And if you like this video, please go ahead and hit that like button so that more people can see this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.